There's a story, an old maritime mystery, but it really cuts deep into something fundamentally human. I mean, the Mary Celeste, remember that, 1872, found adrift in the Atlantic. Ship's fine, cargo's there, sails are even partly set, but the crew just vanished. No fight, no wreckage, just gone. And P.G. Sebastian, in his writing on this, he sort of grabs onto that silence. He says, it's not the terror of a sudden wreck, but the terror of quiet, deliberate, and final departure. The terror of being left. Welcome back, everyone, to The Deep Dive. We're powered by the Steps to Forever ecosystem, and today we're definitely diving deep.
We absolutely are. And just a reminder, this is part 2 of our big 4-part fear project. We kick things off in part 1 looking at the fig leaf and the digital age, the terror of being truly seen. If you missed that one, seriously, go find it on the YouTube podcast. Because today, we tackle what might be the most corrosive fear of all, abandonment.
That's right. Sebastian calls it the Mary Celeste of the heart. What a phrase, huh? It's just devastatingly accurate. This idea that the relationship itself, the ship, seems fine, but you wake up one day and you're alone. They just left, quietly.
Yeah, finding yourself fully provisioned like the ship, but utterly deserted. And our goal here, using the Steps to Forever framework, is to really dig into that, to interpret it deeply, but also, crucially, link that insight to practical application. Because, as we always say, forever should be built with clarity.
Exactly. And getting clear often starts with seeing our own role. For lots of us, maybe, or perhaps for our partners, there's this figure P.G. Sebastian identifies, the anxious sentinel, always watching the horizon for that departing ship.
Right. The sentinel isn't just worried departure might happen. They operate as if it's basically inevitable. It's already written. Sebastian points out their whole internal world isn't just like simple neediness. It's a constant, a relentless scenario generator.
A scenario generator. Wow.
Yeah, running these incredibly detailed, high-fidelity drills of relational collapse all the time. It's a survival instinct, sure, but man, it's exhausting.
Okay, so the mind's running these constant disaster drills. What does that actually do to someone's behavior? How do they try to protect themselves? What are these mechanisms?
Well, Sebastian pinpoints 3 main defense strategies. And the first one, it's almost invisible. He calls it the prophylactic flinch. This one's driven by that deep fear of rejection. So the sentinel preemptively hides parts of themselves. They withdraw bits of their personality to avoid being disliked.
So it's not just being passive, it's actively erasing yourself, like self-ghosting, he calls it.
Exactly, self-ghosting. They intentionally sand down the unique edges of their personality. Ask their favorite movie, they might just agree with yours, strong opinion on something, they bite their tongue, they basically offer up this more palatable, generic version of who they are.
Thinking about someone listening who recognizes that in themselves, the tragedy is they're sacrificing the very thing that likely drew their partner in, their uniqueness.
That's the absolute core of it. Sebastian puts it so starkly. The belief is it is better to be a faint outline than a vibrant portrait that someone might decide they dislike. Safety over depth.
Okay, but that kind of constant self-editing, it can't hold forever, right?
Yeah.
If just fading into the background doesn't actually soothe that core anxiety, what happens next? When the threat still feels real.
Right. That's when the strategy often shifts dramatically. They move to the second defense, suffocating engagement. Now the driving force is the raw fear of being abandoned outright. So the sentinel stops trying to disappear and instead attempts to seize control of the entire ship.
Okay. So this is where the micromanaging comes in, the constant checking, needing updates, location tracking, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Sebastian says simple questions change their nature. Who are you with? Or why didn't you text back sooner? They stop being just questions. They become interrogatories.
Like putting the partner on trial, even when they haven't actually done anything wrong.
Precisely. And the impact. It's brutal, even if unintentional. Sebastian stresses this isn't about affection, it's panicked restraint. It's like an attempt to tie the partner to the mast with 1,000 tiny threads of obligation, of needing to be close.
It makes you wonder, though, where's the line? When does that understandable fear tip over into something that feels, well, manipulative? Because the effect on the partner, regardless of intention, is suffocating.
Well, it's the outcome, isn't it?
Yeah.
The relationship stops being a shared journey. It becomes a hostage situation, as Sebastian describes it. They're trying so desperately to keep the flame alive, to stop the person leaving, that they end up smothering it. They cut off the air supply, which ironically makes escape feel necessary for the partner.
Which I guess leads right into the third strategy, when control doesn't work either.
Yep. The final defense. Phantom enemy ships. This is fueled by the fear of betrayal. Suspicion basically becomes the Sentinel's reality filter.
Okay, explain that. Phantom ships.
They turn into a kind of forensic accountant of their partner's life. They scrutinize everything social media likes, how long a text took, a casual mention of a coworker, and they use confirmation bias. Everything gets filtered through the lens of they're definitely cheating or leaving. An innocent meeting ran late becomes a coded message of infidelity.
God, that's heartbreaking. They're so busy building this narrative of disaster that they completely miss any real love or connection that is there just because it doesn't fit their leaving script. So we see the defenses. But let's zoom out a bit. Why does this feel so intense now more than, say, our grandparents' generation? It doesn't just appear out of nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely not. And Sebastian gives some really vital sociological context here. He talks about how we fundamentally shifted our expectations of marriage, of partnership. We moved from what he calls institutional marriage, primarily an economic, social contract, towards identity-based marriage, self-actualizing marriage.
Where your partner has to be everything.
Everything. Soulmate, best friend, therapist, co-parent, career advisor. The list goes on. And Sebastian says this shift creates impossibly high stakes. Because if your partner is your everything, losing them doesn't just feel sad. It feels like total self-annihilation. The existential terror is immense.
Right. And then you throw the modern digital world on top of that already massive pressure cooker.
Exactly. Sebastian talks about the Tinderization of commitment, this constant marketplace vibe.
Yeah.
It creates this background radiation of replaceability.
Such a cruel twist, isn't it? Society tells you, go find the one, your soulmate. But then it constantly bombards you with images and profiles of supposedly better options just to swipe away. It's like society hands the Sentinel, who's already terrified, this incredibly fragile, priceless vase, and then shoves them into the middle of a packed, jostling room. Of course, they're terrified of dropping it.
That's a perfect analogy. And the energy it takes to not drop it, to stay constantly vigilant. Sebastian calls it a crushing tax on the relationship. We need to talk about this cost. First, there's the Sentinel's own cost. This uncompensated second shift of emotional labor, just constant, exhausting risk management.
All that energy that should be going into building something together, into joy, into intimacy. Instead, it's just burnt up running those disaster simulations and trying not to say the wrong thing.
And then there's the cost to the partner, the one Sebastian might call the secure anchor. They're relentlessly drained. They're forced into this role of constant reassurance giver. It leads to compassion fatigue, obviously, but also a huge erosion of their own freedom, their autonomy.
Yeah, let's make that concrete. It's not just saying, I love you more. It's the anchor deciding not to go for that drink after work, even if they want to, just to avoid the inevitable questions or the panic it might cause. It's changing their own life, editing their own choices, bit by bit. That's the tax.
Precisely. And maybe for anyone listening, it's worth reflecting. Is your relationship mainly a platform for growth and shared joy? Or is it fundamentally a net drain on resources because you're always managing risk? If it's the latter, you're paying that tax.
And that constant focus on plugging leaks, preventing disaster, it leads straight to the biggest cost of all, doesn't it? The opportunity cost. Sebastian puts it beautifully, if sadly. The relationship becomes so focused on preventing leaks, it never actually sails anywhere new. It never reaches those distant, rewarding shores. You spend years just managing phantom threats instead of building a real shared future. It's that slow, quiet death by 1,000 cuts.
And that right there is the terrible irony, the devastating self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
The Sentinel's greatest fear comes true, the partner leaves. But often, as Sebastian notes, it's not because love died. It's because they couldn't bear the suffocating, unwinnable role anymore. They had to escape the prison the fear had built.
The very actions meant to keep the person close ended up driving them away, just like the Mary Celeste. The ship is sound, but the crew fled something unbearable.
So how do you break this? How does the Sentinel or the couple trapped in this dynamic find a way out? Sebastian's really clear on this. The answer isn't external. It's not finding a better partner who won't trigger the fear or developing sneakier surveillance tactics. It has to be an inward journey. It's about building a self so solid, so anchored in its own intrinsic worth, that it doesn't need constant external validation to feel safe.
Okay, but how? If your brain is wired for those high-fidelity collapse drills, how do you just switch them off? Radical self-awareness sounds great, but what's the first practical step someone can take when that panic starts to rise?
The very first step, according to Sebastian, is learning to recognize the anxiety as a signal, not as reality. That wave of panic isn't an accurate forecast of the present moment. It's usually an echo, a signal from past hurts, past traumas, trying desperately to protect you now. Things like, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, or even basic mindfulness techniques. They help you catch that anxious thought before it hijacks everything, before it turns into an accusation or a defense mechanism. You learn, slowly, to anchor yourself in the present, rather than getting swept away by past fears or future catastrophes.
Right. Okay. So you start doing that internal work, recognizing the signal,
Yeah,
and then that makes space for the next step, which Sebastian calls recontracting the relationship.
exactly. It enables a new kind of honesty. But it's honesty that's articulated, as he says, without being weaponized.
So instead of, where were you? Who are you texting? It's learning to say something like, okay, I'm feeling really insecure right now, and the story my anxiety is telling me is that you're pulling away.
Precisely. It takes practice, massive practice. The relationship has to become a space where you actively choose vulnerability, choose expressing the fear gently, over falling back into those old defensive postures, day by day.
It's about navigating the storms, not pretending they don't exist.
That's the goal Sebastian points towards. It's not a life or a relationship without storms. Fear might always be a passenger, to some extent. The real aim is internal sovereignty, becoming a skilled sailor yourself, building a sturdy enough vessel, your own sense of self, and having a trusted enough co-captain in your partner. Ultimately, it's about learning to take the helm of your own ship.
Wow. That's a powerful place to land after navigating such a deep fear. Thank you for taking us through the Mary Celeste to the Heart today. And remember, everyone, this was part 2 of our 4-part fear project. If you haven't already, do check out part 1, The Fig Leaf in the Digital Age, on love and the terror of being truly seen. It's on our YouTube channel. And definitely keep an eye out for parts 3 and 4. For more deep dives into love, marriage, and building something truly lasting, you can find PG Sebastian's insights on his Substack, also called Steps to Forever, or visit his counseling website at pgsebastian.com/log. Explore the whole ecosystem.
Because forever should be built with clarity.